I don't give a about your faults or mishaps. We from the Bronx, New York. Things happen. Kids clapping, love to spark the place. Half the cats in the squad got a scar on their face. It's a cold world and this is ice. Half a mil for the charm. Brother, this is life. Got the Phantom in front of the building, Trinity Ave. 10 years been legit. They still figure me bad. Don't know if that worked too well with my accent, but this was Fat Joe and Terror Squad at the peak of their musical careers. What a time to be alive, and I love it. I loved it back then, I love it now. Apologizing to nobody. I love that era. I actually had to find like a snippet where there was the least cuss words, and it was like the start of the song. Everything else, it would just be just bleep, 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 bleep. I really tried. Way back in the day, one of the earliest viral moments in sneaker history was when Fat Joe licked a pair of Olympic 7s, and earlier this year, he went on the Eli Manning show and recreated that moment, but this time, it was Eli Manning licking Fat Joe's latest collaboration with Nike. Nike Air Force One, Terror Squad, Loyalty. Now initially this was just a white and porpoise colorway. Fat Joe the other day posted on Instagram, called it the Loyalty colorway, so I'm going with Loyalty. Now the shoe is dropping on September 8th for $150. I believe at select Nike retailers. I've seen like 3 different release dates for this shoe. Keeps changing, but Fat Joe the other day on Instagram, he did post the shoe's dropping on September 8th, but don't quote me on that because they still might change it. And this shoe is one of 2 pairs in collaboration with Terror Squad and Nike. So this is the first pair to drop. The second one, the Air Force One Blackout, I believe that's dropping on September 16th. Now, way back in the day, like 2004, around that time, Fat Joe had collaborated with Nike before, with friends and family Air Force Ones. So a very limited release, the general public couldn't get them. So about 20 years after that, finally, he's releasing another collaboration with Nike, this time releasing to the general public. Now, regardless if you're into Fat Joe's music, regardless what you think about him, he's definitely one of the OG celebrity sneakerheads. He definitely has been collecting sneakers for a long time, and you can see his passion for sneakers like every time he speaks about them. Now right off the bat, out of the 2 colorways as part of this collaboration, the Blackout and this colorway, the Loyalty color, I think I prefer this colorway more. And this shoe, it's very muted. This porpoise color is very subtle, very easy to wear, I think. Now the Air Force One, obviously a legend now. This shoe was originally designed by Bruce Kilgore in 1982, and the first basketball shoe for Nike that used Nike Air. And quick side history lesson, 1982 was the Air Force One's first release year, but the shoe actually didn't do too well, so Nike was considering discontinuing it in 1984. However, 3 stores in Baltimore, the Air Force One was like their best-selling shoe. So they went to Nike and said, we would sign an exclusive retail contract with Nike if you keep giving us these shoes, and people from around the country would drive down to Baltimore. They would get a new color every month, which kind of birthed the idea of Color of the Month Air Force Ones that still lives on today. So the 3 Baltimore stores convinced Nike to carry on with the Air Force One. And as someone who's got the Air Force One in their like top 3 silhouette and sneakers of all time, I got a lot to thank those 3 stores for. Now it's one of the best. I think overall it might actually be the best selling sneaker of all time. I believe that's still true, even though it's not as popular as it was back in the day. The Air Force One I've always loved. I've never wavered from my love of the Air Force One. I got like 7 pairs of the Air Force One right now in my current rotation. This silhouette is just so iconic, so easy to wear. And yes, it was named after the presidential Air Force One, the plane that the president rides on. And this shoe comes with a white leather base layer. Pretty standard for a regular Air Force One. The leather is pretty average, slight notch above that super cheap Air Force One leather that you see on like the Air Force Ones for $110. Sometimes they come with super plastic feeling leather. This one, it feels okay. I think there's like a coating over it, but overall, pretty average leather, nothing special. I expected something a little bit more premium since it is a special release, but nope. And then moving to the tongue, you see the words Nike Air, Air Force One, and that porpoise color. And then on the back of the shoe, you'll see the letters JC. That is Fat Joe's kind of alter ego, Joey Crack. So kind of like Slim Shady, Eminem. And then on the side of the shoe, the heel counter, you see TS, that stands for Terror Squad. That's obviously Fat Joe's rap group. Now the Air Force One also comes with a rubber cup sole with, of course, a Nike Air unit on the heel that extends all the way up to the midfoot. and the Air Force One is the first Nike basketball shoe to utilize Nike Air. Also on the midsole, you see the words Air with that line through it that extends all the way around to the other side of the heel. Very distinct and traditional look of an Air Force One. And this shoe does come with a semi-translucent icy blue outsole. And the outsole of the Air Force One is actually a trendsetter, so it's what you call concentric circle traction or pivot point traction. So it was designed for big players in the NBA, so the traction was designed for side-to-side movement and made it easier because of that circle pattern. It was supposed to make it easier for big men to pivot. Now, if you don't know much about basketball, big men, back in those days anyway, they would play in the post, back to the basket, and a very kind of basic move is the pivot step or drop step, where they would rotate on their pivot foot, and that traction is supposed to make that movement much easier. And you see the DNA of this traction on shoes like the Air Jordan 1. This is where it all started. Now, the shoe does come with one extra set of laces. It's in this porpoise color, and out of the two colors, I can't choose. I think they both look very nice on the shoe. I like both of them. This is one of those rare times where I can't choose between the default laces as well as an extra set of laces. I just like how both of them look. Let me know which one you would choose between the two, but yeah, on any given day, give me either one, I'm happy. And the most disappointing thing about this shoe, the box. A very generic Air Force One Nike box. You see this when you go to an outlet store and buy a pair of Nike shoes, you might see this box. That's supposed to be a pretty special collaboration, I think, but come on, this isn't good enough. Now moving on to size and comfort, I'm a size 9.5 true to size. I do have wide feet, but for the Air Force One, I stick true to size. It's a pretty wide fitting shoe. Honestly, I still have a bit of wiggle room even with my wide feet. So actually, if you don't have wide feet, you might actually be able to go down half a size. I stick true to size just to be sure. I have tried going up half a size before on the Air Force One. Way too loose. Don't do it. I'd recommend staying true to size for the Air Force One. Comfort wise, very, very old shoe. Back in 1982, this released. It's a very stiff, probably one of the most uncomfortable shoes that I have in my entire rotation. Even around the ankle collar, the padding, it's pretty thin. It's not like the Jordan 2s or even like the Jordan 4s, which isn't a very comfortable shoe overall, but at least the padding around the tongue and around the ankle collar is nice. And this shoe, none of that. It just is not good. It's boxy, it's flat, it's not well cushioned, it's heavy, it's clunky. It's all of those things, but it's also beautiful. I love the Air Force One still, despite that comfort. And that brings the total sole score to the Terra Squad Air Force One Loyalty to 12 out of 25. One of the lowest scores compared to other collaborations, but this is one of those shoes where the score might not tell how much or accurately represent how much I like this shoe. It is a score based on metrics viewed in a vacuum, separated from each other. Doesn't take into account the intangibles of sneakers. So this shoe, even though it's a very low score, I still like it. Now, colorway wise, I think this is a very, very clean and neat colorway. A predominantly white Air Force One with a very muted and subtle porpoise color. Very nice. And the icy outsole to kind of top it all off. I think it's a beautiful colorway. Very classy, very elegant. I love it. You wouldn't exactly associate the word elegant with Terra Squad and Fat Joe, but in this case, I think it's an elegant looking shoe. In terms of materials, very average. Air Force Ones, don't expect too much. Nothing premium. It's better than maybe like the lowest priced Air Force Ones. This is a slightly higher priced Air Force One, but overall in terms of materials, leave some room to be desired. In terms of comfort, like I said before, a shoe made in 1982, what do you expect? It's old, it's clunky, it's boxy, it's stiff, it's flat. Don't say I didn't warn you. You can make it work. Like if you had to wear it for a day, you can make it work, but compared to all the other shoes that are coming out nowadays, even the early Jordans, yeah, it is a long way behind. Versatility wise, I think this is a very, very versatile shoe. The Air Force One silhouette, obviously, one of the most versatile shoes ever. I would put it up there with any other shoe in terms of versatility. Any other sneaker, the Air Force One silhouette, I would put right up at the top. In terms of the colorway, very simple, not too loud, still makes kind of a statement. The Terra Squad and JC, Joey Crack kind of initials on the back of the shoe, that might not be for everybody, but most people, they'll just see it, ignore it. They'll see a white and porpoise looking shoe. Very, very versatile. I think I could wear this on so many different occasions. In terms of storytelling, I was very disappointed at a very standard Air Force One box, so I think there's some opportunity there. It does have Terra Squad branding, but that's about it. Now the blackout colorway, that actually has some story behind the shoe. I'm not sure if this one does, But for that shoe, it does have a story behind it, and according to Fat Joe, it's because they used to have street ball games in Rucker Park. So his team against Jay-Z's team back in the day, NBA players like Allen Iverson, I think Carmelo Anthony, Kenyon Martin, all of them would participate. So Fat Joe against Jay-Z, they were going to have a street ball game at Rucker Park in New York. But on the day, it was way too hot, so there was actually a blackout in the city. So they never actually had the game. So the blackout colorway was a reference to that day. That would have been a legendary street ball game. That would have been crazy. Now, a lot of people, especially younger people, they're probably not familiar with Fat Joe or familiar with Terror Squad and probably have never heard his music. But this shoe, seeing his collaboration with Nike finally make it to the public, it just really brings back a ton of nostalgic memories from the early 2000s. Probably still my favorite era of like pop culture in general. I remember the music back then, I was just super into the NBA back then with AI dominating. It's just peak childhood memories. I love it. And seeing this collaboration come to life in 2023, it's sentimental, it's nostalgic, but it's also a very nice clean looking shoe in a vacuum. So that's it. Thanks for watching Sole Inclined. Let me know what you think of the Terror Squad Air Force One Loyalty. Like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. And remember, tomorrow may never come, so wear your shoes.